Have you ever wondered how to maintain peace and joy in your old age, especially within a family filled with complex relationships? As we age, we face the inevitable decline in health and energy, but we also encounter crucial decisions about how to navigate our relationships with loved ones, particularly our children. In this video, we'll explore how some elderly individuals make the mistake of revealing too much to their children, only to face regret later. By sharing the story of Mrs. Luong, who had substantial savings and a dream-worthy pension, but made decisions that led to painful consequences, you'll learn valuable lessons on the importance of wisdom, boundaries, and careful communication in your later years. Stick with us until the end to discover the crucial things elderly people should avoid saying to their children to ensure a peaceful and fulfilling old age, free from unnecessary worries and conflicts. Don't miss out on this eye-opening story that could change the way you view aging and family dynamics forever. Before we begin, I would appreciate it if you could like this video. Your support helps me continue to spread important lessons about aging. If you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. If you enjoy this video, please comment 1, and if not, comment 0. To let me know how I can improve my content for you. Now let's dive into the story. Let me share with you the story of Mrs. Luong, a woman who, on the surface, seemed to have it all: a comfortable pension, substantial savings, and the freedom to live life on her terms. However, her story is one of misjudgment and regret, the consequences of which led to painful situations she never anticipated. My name is Luong, and I am 66 years old. I was born and raised in a poor rural area where life was difficult and opportunities were scarce. My mother, always hoping to change the course of our family's future, sought a matchmaker to secure a marriage for me with someone from the city, believing such a union could lift me out of poverty. It wasn't long before I was introduced to a man from a decent family. His parents were factory workers, and he was 4 years older than me at the time. He had a steady job, and our families were thrilled about the match. The idea that I, a simple girl from the countryside, would marry into a family with a more stable lifestyle filled everyone with joy. Yet I couldn't help but wonder what had drawn him to me. I was just an ordinary village girl, and I wondered why someone from the city would choose me as his wife. After our marriage, I quickly learned the reasons behind his choice. My husband had been previously married to a woman from the city. Their marriage lasted for 2 years but was childless. His ex-wife was lazy and unwilling to contribute to the household, often refusing to do chores, which led to growing tension with his mother. Eventually, they couldn't take it anymore, and the marriage ended in divorce. He was introduced to a few other women, but none of them were a good fit. Finally, his family decided that a diligent and gentle daughter-in-law from the countryside would be a suitable choice. At first, learning this made me feel heartbroken. It seemed like I was chosen not for love, but simply because I was willing to be the dutiful, hard-working wife that his family desired. But as time passed, I discovered that my husband's family was genuinely kind-hearted. Even though my mother-in-law could be strict at times, she was never unkind to me and always cared for my well-being. Soon after our marriage, I became pregnant and gave birth to a son, which greatly improved my position within the family. My husband and his parents were overjoyed, and they showered me with love and attention. A couple of years later, I gave birth to a beautiful daughter. Unlike many families that preferred sons, I was truly happy with my family. My mother-in-law, who had initially been quite strict, began to trust me more, slowly handing over the responsibility of managing the household. My husband, ever supportive, shared the duties of raising the children and taking care of our home. Life was peaceful, and we made a comfortable living. When my parents retired, they arranged for me to work in the local community office, and my monthly income provided us with a stable life. I was deeply grateful to my in-laws for their support and did everything I could to take care of them as they grew older. After my parents-in-law passed away, life continued to be harmonious. Even as I grew older, my husband remained loving and attentive. We were happy together, and each day seemed like a gift. However, everything changed when my husband became seriously ill. Despite our best efforts, he passed away. Before he died, he asked me to carefully protect the 2.8 billion Vietnamese dong we had saved together, keeping it a secret from the children so they would be motivated to work hard. This money, he explained, was the fruit of our joint labor, and he wanted it to be there for us in our later years. After his death, I retired and began to receive a monthly pension of 10.5 million Vietnamese dong. My children grew up, married, and started their own families. I found myself living alone, enjoying the independence I had longed for. I spent my time shopping, meeting friends, and even traveling alone whenever the mood struck me. People would often comment on how independent and carefree I seemed, and some even envied my freedom. Yet not everyone was supportive. Some criticized me for spending money on travel, saying I was being wasteful with my savings. My children suggested I spend less time traveling and consider moving in with them to help with household chores, cooking, and taking care of their children. I shared my savings and pension with them, assuring them I was financially secure. Little did I know that this decision would turn out to be the greatest regret of my life. In hindsight, I realized that my desire for independence, which seemed so fulfilling at the time, isolated me from the very people who cared for me most. I ignored the importance of family and the simple joys of spending time together. The choices I made, choosing to live alone, keeping my savings to myself, and distancing myself from my children, led to a deep sense of loneliness. The regret of not having shared more of my life with my loved ones, of not having been there for them in the way I should have, weighs heavily on my heart now. My story is a reminder that no amount of money, no matter how substantial, can replace the love and connection of family. It's a reminder to cherish those relationships while we still can. When my children first discovered the extent of my savings, they were both excited and impressed. They praised me for being so prudent and disciplined with money, calling me clever for managing to save such a substantial amount. At the time, I didn't think much of their reactions. I was glad they admired my financial habits but didn't anticipate the deeper consequences that would soon unfold. One day, my son came to me with a request. He wanted to buy a new, larger house and asked if I could lend him a deposit of 1 billion Vietnamese dong, saying it would improve the lives of his children and give them a better future. At first, I was hesitant, but I agreed, hoping it would truly benefit him and his family. Not long after, my daughter came to me with a similar request. She wanted 350 million Vietnamese dong to purchase a new car, believing it would help her live a more comfortable life. Again, I was willing to help, believing that by supporting them, I was contributing to their happiness and success. If you are still watching this video and finding these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know you are still with me. Thank you for your valuable time. At first, everything seemed perfect. They were attentive, loving, and took care of me in every small way. Their affection and consideration brought me great comfort, and I felt deeply appreciated. However, as the weeks passed, and they received the financial help they had asked for, their behavior began to shift. The warmth and care they once showed turned into a sense of entitlement, and they began to demand more and more. It was as if my savings were an endless well, one that they had the right to tap into. I had been more than happy to provide for them out of love, hoping to see them thrive, but their growing greed drained me, both financially and emotionally. Soon, I realized that the savings I had spent years carefully accumulating were quickly being exhausted. It was a harsh wake-up call, one that made me realize my children no longer saw me as someone to care for, but rather as a resource to exploit. When they learned that my savings were nearly gone, their affection disappeared. They became cold and distant, and the constant support I had once enjoyed vanished. Not long after, I fell ill and required surgery, which wiped out the remaining funds I had set aside for my future. As I faced the reality of aging, I realized that I would likely need to rely on my children for care and support in my later years. Hoping for some comfort and connection, I suggested that I move in with them, but they refused. They offered excuses about being too busy or lacking space, and my heart broke. In my frustration, I told them I would hire a caregiver instead, but their response was even colder. They said they couldn't afford to pay for a caregiver or cover my basic living expenses. Instead, they suggested I go to a nursing home where the fees would be low enough to be covered by my pension. My son even recommended a remote facility with minimal fees so they wouldn't have to provide much financial support. It was then that I felt the full weight of their indifference. They no longer saw me as a parent in need, but as a burden to offload. I was devastated by their lack of compassion and refused to go to a nursing home. I knew all too well that these places were far from ideal, full of problems and strangers. I couldn't bear the thought of spending my final years isolated from the family I had once loved and cared for. Reflecting on everything that had happened, I realized the painful truth. I should never have shared the full extent of my savings with my children. My husband had always cautioned me about being too open with family regarding personal finances, and now I deeply regretted not listening to him. I came to understand that family relationships require wisdom, especially when it comes to matters of money. In hindsight, I should have been more cautious about what I shared and whom I trusted with such sensitive information. Family harmony and understanding are built on careful consideration of both words and actions. It's important to think before speaking and to be mindful of what you reveal, especially regarding your hard-earned savings. As a parent, it's natural to want to provide for your children and ensure their well-being, but sometimes doing too much for them can have negative consequences. Revealing too much about your financial situation can change your children's mindset, making them dependent on you and eroding their sense of responsibility. This can stunt their personal growth and development as responsible adults. I have learned the hard way that it's better to keep financial matters private, particularly when it comes to sharing details about your savings and future plans. Your savings are meant to secure your future, and maintaining your independence is the best way to ensure a comfortable, worry-free old age. Although you love your children and want to help them when they're in need, there's no need to disclose every detail of your financial situation. You can still support them, but without revealing your entire financial picture. This way, you maintain your independence and avoid unnecessary family conflict. It's also wise to keep your plans for dividing your assets private. It's better to make decisions based on your own needs and avoid creating unrealistic expectations or fostering dependence. By keeping certain things private and making thoughtful decisions, you can preserve the warmth and love in your family relationships. Money should never be the driving force in your family dynamics. The true bonds we share with our loved ones are built on mutual respect and understanding, not financial transactions. Wise elders typically refrain from discussing their finances too openly, recognizing that such topics can lead to tension or misunderstandings within the family. Older individuals need to ensure their financial security so that they can enjoy their later years in comfort, without becoming reliant on their children for support. The ability to manage one's wealth is both a gift and a challenge, and understanding this complexity is crucial for parents. If parents fail to acknowledge the potential negative consequences of wealth, they might unintentionally make decisions that have lasting negative effects on their children's lives. Rather than simply amassing wealth and leaving it to their children, parents should focus on teaching them responsibility, self-sufficiency, and the importance of effort. Many stories exist of well-meaning parents who give their children wealth too early, which often leads to unintended consequences. Children may lose their motivation to work hard, fail to appreciate the value of money, or squander the wealth that was handed to them without challenge. Moreover, they might neglect to care for their aging parents, which can create painful emotional divides. In the end, what was meant to be a blessing can become a burden if wealth is given away too quickly or without careful thought. Conflicts often arise in families over the distribution of assets, and these issues can be particularly contentious in blended families or when family dynamics are complicated. Truly wise elders understand the importance of discretion when it comes to their wealth. They keep their plans for asset distribution a secret until the appropriate time, avoiding unnecessary financial discussions that could cause tension. As we age, it becomes more important to choose our words carefully, especially regarding sensitive matters like finances. Some things are better left unspoken, as revealing too much can lead to harm. Elders who possess this wisdom know that keeping certain financial matters private is the best way to avoid conflict and maintain family harmony. It's especially true when relationships within the family are complex, such as in blended families. Waiting for the right moment to reveal plans and intentions regarding asset distribution ensures that children have the chance to learn responsibility and independence, rather than becoming dependent on an inheritance. If you're still watching and finding these lessons helpful, please comment below to let me know. Thank you for your valuable time. In families with multiple children, parents often find themselves facing the challenge of distributing resources, both financial and emotional, fairly. Each child, being an individual with their own unique needs and perspectives, may feel hurt or overlooked if they perceive any form of unfair treatment. Parents, unintentionally, may make decisions that lead to feelings of favoritism or inequity. But the key to maintaining harmony within a family is to focus on the future, not the past. Grievances from the past should be let go, and parents should refrain from revisiting old wounds. This approach allows families to preserve peace and understanding. An example of this can be seen in the drama See You, where a poignant moment arises when Feng asks his grandmother why she left the family house to the eldest child, even though the second and third children had a strong emotional connection to the home as well. The grandmother's response is both simple and powerful. She only had one house, and she had to prioritize the child who was facing the most difficult circumstances. While the second and third children were not wealthy, they were self-sufficient. This decision upset the younger siblings, but over time, the issue was never brought up again. By consciously choosing not to dwell on the perceived injustice, the family was able to maintain peace. In many cases, it's not the injustice itself that causes the most pain, but the constant reminders of it. Rather than letting harsh words create divisions, patience, empathy, and focusing on the future can be much more effective. Silence, tact, and careful communication often prove to be the best tools for maintaining family peace. Parents, no matter how old their children become, continue to worry about them. In their eyes, their children remain their babies, deserving of care, attention, and protection. This worry often manifests in well-meaning yet sometimes hurtful remarks, particularly when children are faced with tough decisions or take paths that diverge from what the parents might have hoped. Driven by concern, parents can inadvertently distance their children emotionally by offering unsolicited advice or comparisons to other siblings. As parents age, it becomes even more important for them to learn how to support their children without judgment. In Zensagemind, the Chow family has 3 children, 2 of whom are successful and make their parents proud. The youngest, however, struggles both academically and in life. Despite the youngest child's efforts to care for the parents at home, the father, feeling disappointed, frequently compares the youngest to the older, more successful siblings. This comparison leads to constant criticism, which alienates the child and weakens the family bond. Over time, they lose contact. Even successful children need their parents' support and recognition, and without it, they may feel lost, unloved, and disconnected. The hurt caused by such criticism can run deep, and its impact may not be immediately visible. Parents should learn to encourage their children rather than criticize them, showing unconditional love and understanding regardless of their achievements. Elders play an incredibly important role in holding families together, acting as the bridge between generations. They maintain the family bond and ensure its legacy. As you age, it is important to remember the responsibility this role carries. Not everything needs to be discussed openly with your children, especially sensitive matters like finances or family history. Sometimes silence and careful consideration are the wisest choices. This doesn't mean withholding affection or being stubborn, but rather reflecting a deep understanding of what it means to love your family. Thoughtful communication, choosing your words carefully, and knowing when to speak or remain silent are often the keys to preserving family unity and peace. Through this balance, elders demonstrate the most profound love and wisdom, ensuring that the family bond remains strong for generations to come. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video and for joining us in this journey of reflection and growth. As we wrap up, take a moment to think about what you've learned today. What stands out to you? What is one lesson you plan to bring into practice in your own life? We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more inspiring content. Together, let's continue to grow, learn, and encourage each other along the way.